Hi, my name is Robert Huntington. I'm a composer and music educator in California, and today we're going to be talking about composing in a large ensemble setting. If you've ever done it before, it can be a little bit tricky because you have 20, 40 people in a room all trying to compose their own thing, and playing them all together at the same time can be a little bit chaotic. So the system that we're going to talk about today centralizes around using a chord structure, an agreed chord progression that everybody in the room is going to use and write around, but write their own melody with. Here's what that outline looks like. You can see on here we have chords, melody, and then orchestration, and you can move between these semi-freely. Once you start chords, you start with what is a chord, and then go to write a chord progression. Once you get there, you can choose to continue down chords, or you can jump down to melody and start composing melodies. And then, after you do write a melody, you can jump down to orchestration and then go as far down in that as you want to go. As you progress to the right and down in the flowchart, you're going to need to differentiate a little bit more and more as you go. At the beginning, you can do everything 2D together, and by the time you get to the bottom right where it says large ensemble orchestration, your students are going to be taking more ownership of what they're composing and writing individual parts and putting them into different instruments. And obviously that's a little bit hard to do, everybody playing their own thing all at the same time. But as you go through this, you'll see a lot of it we can do together. The things that you'll need to know and have before you start with this method is knowledge that instruments are in different keys. If you're in orchestra, you don't really need to super worry about that because everything's in C, or if you're teaching recorder class, everything's in the same key, I'm assuming. Or you're doing a percussion ensemble, everything's in C. But if you're teaching a band class with wind instruments, then your students are going to need to know that if I play trumpet, I don't play in the same key as the flutes, I don't play in the same key as the alto sax or the French horns, but I do play in the same key as the clarinets. That's going to be important knowledge for them as they progress through this. Note names, if you're in an instrument or a class that doesn't need to worry about transposing, then note names work just fine. If you're teaching a band class, I recommend that you teach in addition to note names, or instead of, in addition to note names, solfege too, because you can say everybody, B flat major chord, the root of that is B flat do, then B flat mi, and then B flat so. Write whatever that is for your instrument on your staff paper, right? And everybody knows that they're writing something slightly different than the people around them, but their section is the same. Or you can lump all the clarinets and trumpets and tenor saxes and bass clarinets together. They're all working on B flat, and then C, and then E flat on their own, and F, of course, too. Ability to play in a major key. And so the thing that I use to ensure my students are familiar with the fingerings and have the ability and comfortability to move around in a key is I use these scale exercises that I've made. On the back is a fingering chart that's fillable by students. They can fill out where the note lands on their instrument, what fingering it is. This one's for violin, so they would fill in the circle or put a circle if it's off the tape, that note. They'll write the note name, and then if you're doing band, you can put solfege below as well, and then notate the note on the staff. And so they get some practice starting putting notes onto the staff accurately, and you can have them write the key too. Those basic notational skills become really important. And so on here, the first line is a 1-octave scale on half notes that I like to do right after doing the fingering chart. And then the last 3 measures are an arpeggiated 1 chord. And so you can have them play the first line and then say, okay, everybody pick 1 note in the last 3 measures. This is what a 1 chord sounds like. And they play that, you write on the board or whatever you're using to show students icons that you're writing, put a Roman numeral 1. This is a 1 chord. 1 chords are major because it's uppercase. Write a lowercase 1. If it's minor, then we write it lowercase. And that's your beginnings into your students understanding how to communicate chords to other people. The second line is important on here. It's listening skills, and it not only is made to improve your students' oral perception and ability to dictate what they're hearing onto the page, but also serves the 4th point knowledge that they need. Ability to write notation and fill measures with correct rhythm. So as you're doing listening skills, be making sure that they understand 2 half notes fit in a measure, or 4 quarter notes, or 1 half note, 2 quarter notes fit within a measure. And I like to do just 1 measure a day for that. The next 3 are just getting comfortable in the key, and then you can see line 6 is composing in 2 lines. So things you're going to need are blank staff paper of at least 2 lines. I have it built into my scale exercises, so you can go down much of the flow chart on just 2 lines before you start needing 3, and then eventually I like to go to 5 towards the as you go farther to the right and down. So blank staff paper or the scale exercises of at least 2 lines. You can also just print out an entire sheet of blank staff paper. I used to cut them in half and then give each student a half sheet of blank staff paper, and it usually fits like 5 lines on it. A pencil and an instrument. If you're following along at home, I would do an instrument in C so that you don't have to worry about transposing, but entirely up to you what you want to do. And then for you, the teacher, a whiteboard for you to compose on and with your students. Or you can use, if you have the ability to project in your classroom, use a notation software like I'm going to be doing in this video and project it so your students can follow along that way. Now, let's get to the composing. Here we are. Here, let me actually delete all of that so we can build it all the way from the bottom. So here are my 2 lines, just like on the scale exercises. And the first thing that we need to know, if we pull up our outline here, is what is a chord? Triads and basic chord symbols. So we already started that, if you're using the scale exercises, in the last measure, talking about 1 chords are a big Roman numeral 1. So we're going to go on here and we're going to start with a 1 chord, 1. And I'm going to change the text on this to be something that shows it a little bit better. There we go. So 1. And I would say, okay, let's build a 1 chord. And this is your first lesson on composing, but it's really just kind of getting primed in the music theory department. So we're going to do 1, whole note is fine, and your root of the chord, since it's a 1 chord, is just D, it's scale degree 1. And the next chord that we're going to do is going to be 6, and that one is going to be lowercase, so it's a minor chord, and that one is built on scale degree 6. So we're going to start at D, go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and that's the root of our chord. So we have major chord, minor chord, the roots of those chords on the scale degree that the chord is named. Now we're going to build our snowman on top of it. If your chord starts on a space, you're going to fill the next 2 spaces above with notes, and that's your triad. If it starts on a line, it's the next 2 lines, always skipping 1 note. Next chord we're going to do is a 4 chord, and then a 5 chord, and then a 1 chord. These chords I like to start with for my beginners because it's familiar, it's accessible to them. It's a chord progression that's very easy to make sound good. And it's very important that we do a chord progression that is easy to sound good because we want to build their confidence. A lot of people don't start composing at all. They don't begin because they think, oh, what I compose sounds bad. And so they don't even start. They don't have the confidence. So let's keep filling in these chords. G is scale degree 4, snowman up, go up 1 to A, whole note, snowman, and then our last chord here is just another 1 chord. Oops, up we go. Okay, there we go. There's our chord progression. And that can be lesson number 1, and then you go on to your rep or whatever your rhythm exercises that you're working on that day. That's all you need to do for day 1. Lesson number 2, write a chord progression. We've kind of already done that. Maybe now we're playing through the chord progression. And what I like to do is just tell my students to pick 1 note from each chord and play that all together. Doesn't matter which one. If you have tubas or basses, bass instruments, bari sax, bass clarinet, I sometimes ask them to play the root of each chord because it's really important that that foundation is there. And if there's a note that's off somewhere higher in the ensemble, it kind of grounds everything and makes it sound okay. What you can also do is have them pick a a chord tone in each chord and write it down so they don't have to pick on the fly which note am I going to play next and what's the fingering and everything. So I'm going to pick F, I'm going to pick B, I'm going to pick, let's do D, and then A, and then maybe we end on F sharp. And so everybody's picking a different chord tone, and you can all play it at the same time. I'm going to move this down so we can just hear what I wrote here, and you play it. Each student hears their own line in the context of the chords around them. It just kind of gets the ear going. And so you can say, okay, now change chord tones to something else. They can, oh my gosh, erase that chord tone and write a new one, or write another one in addition to it, and they play the one that's now on the top or the bottom. Yeah. And so that can be day 2 right there. Write a chord progression, play something in it. We're going to keep going on chords for this video and go all the way down the line. So at this point, we could choose to do that and continue down chords all the way to the end, or just to the next one and then switch down to melody, or you can switch to melody right now. Once you agree on a chord progression, you can start writing melodies, and then after that, you can start orchestrating stuff. But we're going to continue down chords for this video. So the next one, voice leading 1, you can see there's a half note attached to it. It's really important that you keep the rhythms very, very easily sight readable the very first time that it's played. Depending on your student's ability level, it'll be different for everybody, but I do whole notes and then half notes and then eventually quarter notes. But I like to keep it very, very simple so that they hear exactly what's written on the page, and we're not having to worry about things coming out of instruments that aren't intentional. So voice leading 1. Connect between chord tones on beats 1 and 2 with passing tones on 3 and 4, or use common tones. So let's do that. We're going to add a stem to all of our whole notes and make them half notes. Cool. And then what we're going to do, our goal for voice leading is to smooth out the line. We're not trying to make a melody that's going to make an impact. We're trying to make an inner line, something that isn't jumping out all over the place, something that's smooth and connected. That'll eventually, once we get down to orchestration, sit beneath a melody that your students will compose. So we're just going to choose, let me move this back up to where it would be if I was a student who had just written it. There's our reference for our chords, and we're just going to choose a non-chord tone that's between the note that we're starting on and the next chord tone. So I'm going to choose maybe G. And so now, instead of jumping this far, we're only jumping 2 notes. And now we're going here. There's only 1 note in between. Easy decision. Here we have C sharp and B between. Let's choose B's a chord tone. So let's do C. And then here, only 1 in between. G. Great. Keep that a whole note, actually, so we can land on home. We don't need to move from there. This is really a 4-chord chord progression. We're just resolving to 1. So yeah. Okay, let's hear our new line, which is now chord tone, non-chord tone, chord tone, non-chord, non-chord tone, chord tone, non-chord tone, all the way up and down. And so you can have your students all create a different line like this and play it all together still, because we're always resolving to the chord tones on beats 1 and 2. So we get tension, here we go, tension, and then resolution, tension, resolution, tension, resolution, tension, resolution. So it's still a satisfying musical chunk of chords. It's not going to sound super amazing, but it keeps everybody engaged, and we're all still creating our own thing. Great. And so if you don't like one of those chord tones, or you want to try a different one, trial and error is your friend. I'm going to say it again and again in this series of videos. Always trial and error. If you don't like the way this C sharp sounds and you want to use the B, cool. Do that. There's nothing wrong with that at all. It is a chord tone, but we're going from tension to resolution, so it's not going to matter too much. And eventually these are going to turn into individual lines anyway. So try out different things if you want to. If you don't like something, don't think about it too much. Just try something new. Your musician brain, as the teacher with more music theory knowledge, may realize, oh, we're, jumping to a tritone here, and that's why this note doesn't sound super good. Or these notes are a minor second apart, and that's why it sounds kind of weird. Your students will bring that up to you. They'll say, hey, I don't know what's going on, but this note sounds kind of weird. And you can look at it and think, oh, yeah, it's a tritone. And so they don't really need to know all that stuff. You can just say, yeah, just try a different note. And they try a different note. Oh, that sounds good. Get them thinking creatively with their ears and trying different things, trying new things. So that could be the end of lesson number 3. We're back to our outline here. And if you want to be following along on this, it's on my website, robert-huntington.com. You can see the full thing on there and follow along with where we are, and if you want to look ahead at what's coming next. So speaking of what's coming next, quarter notes are now an option in the 4th box on chords, voice leading 2. Move between chord tones 2 steps away, or make a jump and step. So back to our composition. We have a few places where we could add some quarter notes because we're going to 2 notes away to the next one, here and here, right? So we can turn these, if we want to, into quarter notes. We just add a stem and stick a quarter note in there. Fill in that half note, step down, and now we don't even have any jumps, and we're moving quite far. Let's hear what that sounds like. There you go. And it could be as simple as that. This one, I'm putting new notes on the page for the very first time. This one just happened to be very simple. But if you pick a different chord tone, like we're going up to D, we have much more space and a lot more options. So you can do something like this. See how that sounds? You're going from G to C sharp. So my musician brain's like, I don't know if that's going to sound good. But let's try it and see what it sounds like. Maybe that's what we want. Kind of like it. It kind of adds this like emotional tension right there. Let's maybe keep that. But if you don't like it, you can change it. Maybe go like that, and then you're not jumping that tritone. Or you can do this. You're not jumping the tritone still, but you're resolving that. Your students don't need to know that, but you as the musician maybe are realizing that as you're composing. Oh, it's a tritone. Yeah. So in some cases, you're going to need to move more and add more quarter notes, but in this case, we don't really need to. Let's turn that back to be the way it was. And everybody's still able to play this together. Sorry, let me get rid of that. You're still at this point able to play everybody's composition tutti because beats 3 and 4 are tension and beats 1 and 2 are still resolution. And so you can have more than one note happening there, and it works just fine. What you could also do is make this dotted half note and then quarter note. That's okay too. Like here, if we wanted to do this rhythm, that would be just fine also. We're going to keep it simple and just do half notes though. Okay, lesson number 5. This is the last one, extended harmony. And so now you're talking a little bit more about specific music theory stuff that can help your students create sounds that they want. Just another tool in the toolbox, really. So we're talking about an extended harmony all the way on the right, 4/3 and 2/1 suspensions or 7th chords. So if we go into here, let's make one of these a suspended chord. Let me move this up to where it would be for your reference on your paper if you were to have notated it. I like doing suspended 5 chord. Let's do like a 4/3 suspension on our 5 chord. So 1, 2, 3, 4th note up from the root of that chord is our 4, resolves down to the 3, and then my musician brain knows that that's going to want to resolve up. But your students may not, and it'll stay at C or at F sharp, and that's fine. Here, let's see. Maybe we do that. Yeah. Let's try it. And so we have 4, 3, suspension there. Still chord tones on the beat, non-chord tones off the beat, except for your suspensions, which is going to sound a little bit weird now if everybody's playing it all together. So now we're maybe doing chamber groups or something, and it's starting to pare down instead of this large ensemble. It's starting to get smaller. So let's hear what this sounds like. Move these down so it's out of the way. cool. And if your ear likes that, awesome. Change nothing. If your ear is like, I wonder what this would sound like if it did go up to the D, cool. Listen to how that sounds. Play it. It's kind of satisfying, but in a different way. So now you can do quartets, is what I would really recommend for this. Do quartets of people. You can have everybody who has their own key notated out for the chord progression that you're doing for their instrument, and they just choose a note, choose a note, choose a note, choose a note, choose a note. You get 3 students playing that, assign 1 root, assign 1 third, and assign 1 fifth. Everything's going to be in parallel, but that's okay. We don't need to worry about it being perfect. We just want to think creatively and make some music. So 3 students playing that, and then your composer playing the melody here, and you have a short little piece of music, a little snippet of a melody that eventually you can turn into, well, it could be a melody, it could be an inner line, that you can turn into something later. Maybe it becomes your melody in the next section. So in the next video, we're going to talk about melodies, and it'll be very similar to what we did for chords, a little bit different of a start for that. But I hope you join me for that one. If you have any questions about composing with chords, this method so far, let me know in the comments. Happy to answer anything, and I hope you have a great day. Thanks for joining me.